Okay, today we're talking about what I wish I knew before I became a pastor.
Oh, you
That was
juked
the third
me.
one that I
You
didn't even tell
juked
you
me.
about.
You told me we were talking about parenting because
No,
I
we're
know how
not.
to parent.
We're done with
I
that.
know how to parent.
We're done.
You have
We
sex and
had
a baby
four.
is born,
No,
and when the
stop
baby's
hijacking. We're not talking about parenting. We're going to talk about what you wish you knew before you were a pastor. Yeah, what do you wish you knew? Like we kind of have an interesting story. The start to ministry for us was different than some people these days, but certainly not different than a lot of people who, yeah, said yes to God a long time ago. I think now more and more. We were 24 years old, and there's differing opinions about age and when to start or answer the call.
I
Or
was kind of a middle school pastor.
that's true.
Yeah,
How old were you for that?
I was in college. I did a summer where I was serving as
I
the
was a youth
sixth
pastor
grade
in college too.
pastor for my dad. And that does not count.
I totally agree.
It's not the same at all.
No,
It
it's not.
is responsibility and title, but it is nowhere near the weight of leading an entire church for
Yeah,
sure. So, um, what do I wish I knew before I was a pastor?
yeah.
Hmm.
Are you?
I was frozen.
It was a glitch. We're so sorry about that.
There's a glitch in the
We
matrix.
both act like it's frozen, like the computer, their screen,
We can
like trying to refresh.
we can put like one of those like twirly things on the video and like let it pause.
Just trick the audience.
Um,
Oh, I've got one. You want me to go while you think?
I'm kind of being silly at this point. Go for it.
Okay. What I wish I knew before I became a pastor.
That's how easy it would be.
Yeah,
I wish I
just
knew it'd be
like
this easy,
so easy.
and I wish I knew that they'd pay me this much.
Totally. Um, I wish I wish that I had known that it was okay to not have all the answers.
That's great.
I felt such a weight and a pressure
Totally.
to be, not just to have the solution for everything, but to be the solution for everything
Yeah.
everyone was facing. And what I actually think I did is I set up people to be disappointed
Hmm.
in me and maybe even in God
Yeah.
because I didn't have all the answers and I wasn't able to be the solution people needed.
Yeah.
I
But you
probably,
tried to. But are you saying that you tried to act like you knew all the answers?
oh, totally.
Yeah.
I thought I was supposed to. I thought that
Yeah.
that's what God wanted me to do.
Yeah.
I didn't do it because I thought
I'm
I
awesome.
knew it.
Yeah.
I
Totally.
did it because I thought that that's what it meant.
Yeah. They're coming to me. I better have all the. I better
Yeah, I
be able
better.
to answer
This is my
all
job.
this. Yeah.
It's my job. So
Totally.
yeah, I'm the one who needs to drop everything I'm doing to help that person right now in this moment. Like I really was like, I thought I was a first responder,
Yeah.
but I had no training really on
What did that
all
like
of
look
that.
like in your life?
Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of ways it's looked in different seasons. Sometimes it's been literally people in crises coming over to the house and dropping family dinner with my kids to help someone through something. That
Yeah.
there have been times when I've done that, and to be honest, I regret it.
Yeah.
If I look back, I don't know that that was actually ministry.
Yeah.
I don't know that that was actually what. Um, I mean, do you stop serving one person to serve another? I don't know. I kind of felt like I missed the assignment there that night, specifically when I think about it. It's like, hey, my kids really needed my ministry too.
Yeah.
And just because I'm the pastor of a church, does that mean just any church member is more worthy of my ministry on any given night than my kids? I sure hope not. There obviously is a level of sacrifice that your family is subject to.
Yeah.
I remember feeling like, just there were certain conversations or certain people in my life at different seasons of ministry who, because of maybe some of their background and because of their family life, they really didn't have anyone though.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like I had to be the savior
Yeah.
instead of just pointing to Jesus
Yeah.
and having better boundaries. So I don't know. I don't know if that
I,
answers it,
I think
but
that family conversation. I think that's really good though. One thing you wish you knew before you became a pastor is that you're allowed to not know all the answers,
yeah.
and you're allowed to not be the answer. I think is what you're saying. I think that's brilliant. I wish I knew that too. Obviously, we're doing this together, and I think that we were on the journey. We were 24 when we started. I wish, you know what I wish I knew? I wish I knew the difference between being nice and being kind.
Hmm.
I find that as a pastor, what's niceness? Let's just define the difference. Nice is something that I am to somebody on the exterior to try to appease them. Nice is you're nice to strangers. Oh, hi.
Sure.
It's politeness, it's a smile, it's friendliness, it's niceness. Niceness is an exterior.
Mm.
Kindness is behind the exterior. Kindness is my intention, my motive. It's the truth. Like
I've never heard that. I like that.
yeah, and kindness is clear. Kindness is to say, like nice would say when someone comes and is like, "Hey, I'd love to get coffee with you." The nice part of me as a pastor says, "Oh man, that would be great. We should totally do that sometime." Because it would be really mean to look at them and say, "Hey, you know what?" I used to think it would be mean to say, "Hey, honestly, I really don't have any margin in my calendar to do to give you an hour. I just met you. I don't know you. I'm not going to spend an hour with you this week. I'm not going to do that
Yeah.
because out of niceness, I've done that a lot."
Mm.
And there's been a lot of wasted hours there. And wasted as in people who had ulterior motives, ulterior agendas, ulterior just ended up just not being fruitful. Some of those, out of a desire to be nice, turned into very fruitful meetings, and I was happy that I did them. But there's a difference between being nice and being kind. Being kind is the ability to be able to say, "Hey, honestly, it's so good to meet you. If I'm being honest, I really don't have any time, but I'd love for you to get more connected. I'd love for you to start coming around and just be a part of the church, get into a group."
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
and I
That's
wish
great.
that I wish I would have been more kind.
Yeah.
Kind is clear, and as I struggled with that. I struggled with being nice to staff. Staff. I've had staff present ideas, want to do things, and out of a desire not to hurt their feelings, because I actually don't want to do what they want to do. I've even allowed things to move forward, and then they're disappointed when time goes by, and I end up pivoting away from that entire vision anyways. And if I would have been kind on the front end, I could have said, "Hey, I love your enthusiasm, but that's just not aligned with what we want to do."
Exactly. Yeah.
And so that was just like where niceness and kind like got in the
Yeah.
way, and I think that Holy Spirit led kindness
Mm-hmm.
allows me to meet a stranger in the lobby, and the Holy Spirit can prompt me to say, "You know what, no, go get coffee with that person,"
Sure.
even though it's like, because that's Holy Spirit led kindness. But it also allows me to say no, because I feel like it's not going to be the best thing for my time. So
Yeah.
the difference between niceness and kindness, I think I'm kinder than ever, and I think I'm clearer than ever, and
Yeah.
I wish I would have known the difference earlier.
Yeah. And it comes back to a lot of like people pleasing,
Yeah,
right?
that's
You
the
know?
nice thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if there's one thing I could tell myself before I became a pastor is like, hey, this is not a call for people pleasing.
Yeah.
God didn't call me to please people. He called me to serve people.
Great.
There's a big difference between pleasing and serving.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that difference. Serving does require sacrifice.
Yes.
Serving does require giving up my wants, maybe even sometimes my needs, to serve another, to put another before me. But pleasing tries to, I think, win someone over, and when you're feeling that way of like appeasing or hoping that they'll think something of you, or you make decisions not based on wisdom, right? Not based on really priority, right? That's what I think. And knowing, I wish I had been better about communicating my priorities. Last night I was preaching at East Village, and I think I'm more honest than ever. I try to be more honest with people. Like, people have asked me sometime in the lobby, and I used to just get a coffee with everyone all the time, but as you have 4 kids, I mean, how many coffees can I just sit down for an hour and a half, right? And so I love making time for that in my schedule, and there is a time for that in my schedule, but it's not like 10 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember telling someone sometime, I said, hey, I wish I could like sit down and do a coffee, but I just don't have the margin for it right
Yeah.
now. And I thought this person would be so mad at me, so upset at me. And they were like, oh, I totally understand. And I was able to connect them with someone else
Yeah,
on our
exactly.
team to get a coffee with, who actually might have more capacity to even be a friend and to walk through seasons together with that person.
Yeah.
And so,
They work together, that idea of being the answer.
yeah. Yeah. Even I'm even thinking about, oh, I was talking about last night. I told East Village though. I was like, "Hey, I love to be here when I get to be here. It's the best, but I'm only here typically when I'm preaching or a special event." Why? Because I have kids. I have a 9-month-old baby.
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, I want to put my baby to bed.
Yeah.
And I just like said it, and I was like, you know what? I feel really free saying that right now. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's like actually honest
Yes.
and it's clear. And
Exactly.
like what you're saying, being clear is actually
Yeah.
kind to people,
Yeah.
you know?
I think that's really good. I think another thing I wish I knew before I became pastor is how much ministry really needs margin. And this is something that I think we're still really trying to work on.
Yeah.
Margin is a necessary in all of life. You need margin in your calendar.
Yeah.
You need margin in your finances. You need margin in your energy expenditure. You need space. It's in margin. I find that it's where I have space, where I'm the most creative. I have the most vision. I have the most joy in the work. It's when I have no margin, when I'm in the most hurry, when I'm the most rushed, that I feel the most stressed, the most anxious, the most frustrated with where things are. And I find whenever I can get some space in my calendar, uh, just even like making sure that meetings aren't stacked, making sure that I'm not overcommitting myself on projects on week to week. I'm pretty driven, so I tend to want to get a lot of big things done from week to week, and it's just like unrealistic. And I think the word margin is so essential. If you understood how important margin is in every part of your life, you shouldn't have every minute scheduled. I don't think it works. You shouldn't have. Uh, you shouldn't spend every dollar. That certainly doesn't work. Uh, you, the idea of margin, it makes your ministry flourish. As far as I think the culture of your team, I think for your personal energy and for the financial health of the church,
Yeah.
you need space.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
margin.
I'm trying to learn that right now. I have no margin.
Yeah, margin is a big deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a big deal.
Ministry happens in margin and then in moments. I wish that was another thing I understood. When I first got into ministry, I thought that discipleship had to be like a 12-week plan to sit with so and so and walk through the life journal every single day. Monday at 6 a.m., meet me. We're going to walk through the life journal. That is awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great program. It's a good play, and you should do that with some people sometimes. It is important. But that's really not discipleship. It is discipleship. It's one tool in the tool belt of discipleship. Discipleship is a lifelong journey, doing life with people. And you talked about having that moment in the lobby with someone where you kind of shared, well, like I had someone, again, we're going back to the coffee conversation. I had someone who a few months ago said, hey, can we go get coffee? There's something I've really been struggling with. And I wish I knew at a younger age, like before I started, that like honestly, like the moment that person said that to me, They gave me permission to pastor them, and that moment is probably as much attention as that issue probably needed. So this person shared this with me, and I said, you know what? We don't need to wait to get coffee. Tell me about it right now.
Exactly.
And they were like, oh, really? Yeah. And they kind of looked over their shoulder, and I was expecting them to confess some deep sin or to have some, something like super heavy. And what they shared with me was a 3-minute conversation.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, oh, well, let me encourage you. You can do this, and God's gonna help you. And it was a beautiful moment. They received it. It was exactly what the ministry needed for that second. But it was just a few moments. It didn't require so much. Again, you say yes to that coffee out of niceness because uh, and because you want to be the solution. It takes away the margin that you need to lead, and all of these things. I think they all really work together. And yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's really good. I love it's maximizing, I think, the time that you have with people. Jesus, even when you think of Jesus's ministry, how often did Jesus get away with a disciple one-on-one?
Yeah, you don't see that.
Like very little. He has little conversation moments, but it's most often in a passing conversation.
Or correcting.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love that Jesus,
Like Peter's, like
he
he's like,
rebukes
I'm not going to do that, Jesus.
quick.
Yeah, the one-on-one conversations
Yeah,
are
yeah.
corrective conversations, which is another thing. I wish I knew not to correct in front of groups.
That's good. Totally.
Yeah.
But one thing I like about that too, though, is that Jesus, I think of the ministry and the ministering that he does, even as he's on his way. There's always crowds around Jesus, and I love that the stories we read about, like the woman who has the issue of blood, who comes right, and she touches the hem of his garment, and he senses that power has left him, and he asks who it is. It's her. We know the story, but I love that it's just a moment. Like he takes that moment with her and speaks right to her issue, heals her in a moment, and keeps going.
Yeah.
You don't ever see Jesus going person by person by person necessarily and hearing their entire life story and taking an hour with them. What you see is Jesus saying, "Hey, like I'm on mission.
Totally.
I'm on mission." And I think that in ministry, in full-time ministry, God gives you mission, and you are on the journey with people and you're making the most of every moment.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. I want to make the most of every moment with people,
Yeah.
right? So similarly, I think we do live in a culture where they're really what people want is a therapist, or they want a counselor, and that's awesome. But I'm actually not a therapist.
I'm not.
And I'm not a counselor. I'm not licensed for
We're
any
better
of that.
at saying that than ever before.
Yes, I'm a pastor, and God has called me to lead his church and lead people, but to disciple leaders, to disciple others, right? We have to think of our impact, and we have to think of the mission that we're on, and go, okay, what can I give? What can I pour into you in this moment? This girl, hey, can I have your email? I've got something I want to talk to you about. I was like, my email? I was like, if you want to talk to me about it, let's just talk right now. And it was the same kind of thing. It took 3 minutes for her to share it. And it took me 10 minutes, to pour into her, to pray with her, to connect her with someone else. I love the church. I love gathering, because I don't know, I don't want to make too much of it, but when you get away and you're just with the pastor, to have that pastor speak into your life, I love that. I think that's powerful and it's important, but more often than not, it excludes you from actually finding the solution in the community that you belong to.
Yeah.
And it leaves people thinking, well, I got to get another coffee with the pastor.
Yeah.
I got to call the pastor, and we're available. Anyone can talk to me. I'm always I'm wherever things are happening in the church, my number is for everyone.
Yeah, people have it for sure.
Yeah, people have my number. They can get a hold of me. I'm there when people need me, but I want people to have more than just me.
Yeah.
Well,
it's because of the first thing you said. The first thing you learned is that you can't be the solution. And people, it's not it's not out of some wrong motive most of the time. Most people just don't know any better.
Yeah.
They literally they've been trained to go to church, and the guy talking, the woman talking is in charge, and that's the person who's going to help me. Not understanding that, hey, when you're joining a church, you're joining a community of believers. And understanding that when you join that community, it's your friends on your left and on your right, in your groups you're serving with. Those are the people who are discipling you. And
Yeah.
understanding that is I think is such a key. I think another thing I wish I would have known before I started pastoring was that when people tell you who they are, believe them the first time.
Mm.
When they show you who they are, believe them the first time. I believe it's a Maya Angelou quote, and I have learned that to be true.
Mm.
I have had more scenarios. I tend to, when people talk about, like, I've had moments where, like, I've wanted someone to be something, and because I have high hopes for who they can be, and I've had a few moments where I've said, hey, like, I'd love for you to be this or be a leader in this capacity. I like, this is who I think, like God's called you to be. And I've had a few people who say, no, I'm not that. That's not me.
Yeah.
And out of a spirit of, like, believing in
Right.
believing the best, I say, no, you can be. And I've promoted them, and I've tried to help them become something, and I've been wrong about that.
Mm-hmm.
Where people, they were trying to be honest, maybe either about a secret that they have in their character, or just about desires or motives or just capacity.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have believed him the first time. I'm not talking about the person who I speak into, and they're unsure but excited. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the person who's like, you really think that about me? Wow, well, like,
I've never thought that
I've
about
never thought
myself.
that. I
Yeah.
guess I could try. Like, I'm talking about the person who goes, no, that's not me. I'm
Yeah.
not ready for that yet.
Yeah.
I wish I
Yeah.
would have believed him the first time.
Yeah.
I think it would have kept them healthier, and the people that they led healthier.
Yeah.
So I wish I would have
That's so
believed that.
good.
Yeah.
No, I think that's so true. One
Yeah.
more that I was thinking about, and
Yeah.
if we're going to be like real, because hopefully there's some pastors who might tune into this. I wish that when I started pastoring, that I would have never tried to convince someone to stay at my church when they tell me they want to leave.
Oh, that's the most important.
I
It's such a
know
big
that
deal.
you're like, no, you don't want to leave.
I don't try to keep
You
anyone.
want to stay.
You
And
want to leave?
I've tried to keep people when they're like, no, I feel like God's calling me on. I'm like, no. And now
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I love you. Go. Like if you want to leave, like leave.
Yeah. Because another podcast, we should talk about it, because the reality is that people come to us after they've made decisions. And people
Yeah.
who are really submitted to a community, submitted to spiritual authority,
Right.
they don't make decisions before
That's
they
so
tell their
good.
community. People who are doing life with people, they are in the journey making a decision. Hey, I'm praying
Yeah.
about making a decision. Those people, I do try to convince this thing. That, hey, I'm praying about what my role is here, like what, and those people aren't talking about leaving. They're talking about what God's doing in their life. It's the people who've already made decisions. Like, that's a whole nother
Yeah.
conversation.
Well, but even on the other side, though, I mean, there have been people who, they're like, hey, like, I'm thinking that maybe this isn't for me, and I'm really kind of struggling to find my community here, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And that, I say, I've told people really honestly before, hey, I think that I know that it's hard, but keep showing up. Like I can encourage you, but also honestly,
Might be true.
it might be true,
Yeah.
like, and I have some good churches I
Yes.
can tell you about, so you can go and check them out. And I've done that for
Yeah.
people before. I've sent people to other
And those
churches.
conversations are always better because they're
Yeah.
making the decision
Yeah. And it's always,
together.
it's better for them. It's better for the
It's so much
community.
better.
It's
Yeah.
better
And then
as a
it's
pastor.
fun. It's fun to, like, say,
Yeah.
hey, I got someone from uptown who's interested in coming to your church downtown.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, and they're a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're still on the journey.
Yeah. We really still are on the journey.
Yeah.
And I think,
Truly.
man, I've got a lot. I wish I would have known that everyone that Lord sends to us, honestly, it's our time with them, serving them. Uh, it's our job to build them up, to sow seed, and it's our prayer that no one ever leaves us. We don't want it. We're not excited about it, but the reality
Well,
is,
there
is
have
that
been a
is
few.
that yeah. But the reality is when people go, we have. I'm so proud of how many people who have served with us and maybe they've
Yeah.
moved to other states have gone on to do amazing things in
Yep.
the kingdom.
Yep.
And just like understanding that like our time serving the people we
Mhm.
lead is an investment into them, and
Yeah.
people have like stood on our shoulders and gone to higher and greater places, and I'm so
Absolutely.
honored and excited about what they've done with their lives. Like, ministry's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And what we're building is not ours. It all belongs to Jesus. You don't own
Absolutely.
any of this.
Yes.
And it's our heart that like everything we build that we'll be able to get to heaven and would see all the people that we served and served alongside of and
Yep.
hear all the amazing stories of what God did through their lives.
Yeah.
I think that perspective is essential. I wish I knew that perspective before I started pastoring.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
good. I like it. Yeah, maybe we can do a part 2.
Part
Thanks.
2 coming your way. Album release drop happening next season. Okay.
Next year.
This is-
Okay.
what to say.
That's great.
Can you
Well, why don't you close us out? Why don't you wrap this thing up?
pastors, if you're leading, if you're in a leadership position, be encouraged. If God puts you in this leadership position, it means that He's calling you to higher and better places. And don't act like you know all the answers.
Yeah.
Don't act like you can solve all the problems. Be humble enough to say, God and team, I don't know all the answers. And I need margin in my life. I need God in my life. I need space in my life to just continue to develop to be the leader God has called me to be. Understand that the people God's called you to, you're called to steward and serve them for the season that God has entrusted them to.
Amen.
So love them well, lead them well, continue to grow. You can do it. Don't give up.
Amen.